Hi guys, I'm Steve. Laminate floors have the same great look as hardwood floors, and they're easy to install. And today, I'll walk you through the steps to install your own. Lowe's has many styles of laminate floors to fit any home, but today we're using Pergo Timbercraft Plus Wet Protect, so it protects against spills and pad accidents. It's waterproof, so you can even wet mop it. And this one is antique barnwood style, so it's going to look great. Now, before we begin, we've got to make sure we have all the necessary tools. To help you out, we put a handy reference list in the description below. Also, make sure to read the manufacturer's instructions. They'll include helpful tips for installing on a variety of subfloors, as well as provide measurements for moisture tests specific to the flooring you're installing on. As always, if you're not confident about installing something yourself, see a Lowe's associate for help. The first step is to prep your subfloor. Pergo is pretty forgiving and can stand up to 3/16 of an inch unevenness across 10 feet. But for more information on leveling your subfloor, we put a link to that video in the description below. Now, as you can see, we have a door frame to undercut. To get the height of the cut, stack a piece of underlayment and laminate next to the door frame and use an oscillating saw to cut. Also, you might have to install underlayment. Some flooring comes with pre-installed underlayment on the planks. But again, refer to your manufacturer's instructions for the product you're using. I've also put spacers around the perimeter of the wall to provide an expansion gap. I've taped them to the baseboards so they don't move around during installation. For this Pergo floor, they recommend a 3/8 inch spacer, but check your manufacturer's instructions to be sure. Meanwhile, I've measured the square footage of the room, width multiplied by length, so I know how much flooring to get. Then I added 10% more just to account for any waste or mistakes. Next, I brought the flooring into the installation room to let the planks acclimate to the temperature and humidity. You want to do this at least 48 hours prior to installation. So now that we're ready to install, I've chosen to start along this wall based on the manufacturer's instructions. You want to go from left to right along the longest, straightest wall. Typically, exterior walls are more straight than interior walls. Also, to make sure you don't end up with any tiny slivers for the last row, measure the length of the room and divide by the width of the plank, not including the tongue or groove. So if you have a room like this, that's 183.7 inches wide, subtract 3/8 inch from each side. Then divide by the width of the plank, 6.125, and you'll get about 29.87 planks. Take the remaining bit to find the width of the last row, that's 0.87, and multiply by the width of the plank, 6.125, and you'll get a last row that is roughly 5 3/8 inches. I've inspected the planks and everything looks great, so now we're ready to begin. The first thing you want to do is lay down the first row with the tongue side facing your starting wall. The one thing I recommend is blending planks from various cartons to ensure a mixture of colors and shades. When you're happy with the layout, cut the tongue off the long side of the pieces. Don't forget to also cut the tongue off the short side of your first piece, as it'll need to fit in the corner against the spacers. Now, before we assemble row 1 and put it into place, lay out a second row tongue side facing the wall again. Make sure to offset the boards by at least 6 inches to avoid H-joints. Then cut a plank at length as needed, but save your trim sections because you can use these pieces to start other rows. Okay, now that we've got it cut, you're going to want to install the planks using this alternating pattern, going 2 rows at a time. All Pergo floors have a click-lock system to make it easy to do yourself. Just insert the tongue into the groove along the long side, then rotate down until it locks into place. Do the same for the next 2 planks, joining the short end first. To close the gap on the long side, lift the outside edge of the plank just about 1 inch and firmly push until the edges meet. Then rotate down to lock. Because this is a floating laminate floor, we're not using any adhesive, nails, or staples. So now we can simply slide the first 2 rows into their final position. Now that they're in their place, measure and cut your final end pieces and corner pieces. Again, accounting for that expansion gap. Then use your tapping block or pull bar to tighten. Repeat these steps using the same alternating plank technique to complete the floor. If you encounter any obstructions like pipe or floor vents, use a jigsaw to cut the flooring to fit. Always maintain that expansion gap. For the last row, you may have to cut the pieces to fit. Measure the width needed, subtracting the expansion gap, and cut lengthwise. When installing around the doorway, slide the plank at least 1/4 inch under the door frame, leaving a concealed 3/8 inch expansion gap. Then, with your tapping block or pull bar, tap the long sides closed first, then tap the short side closed. To finish up, measure and cut your final corner plank. Insert the tongue into the long side, align the short side, rotate down, then use your pull bar and hammer on the long side to lock into place. Then tap the short side closed. Next, remove all spacers. And for wall-to-wall waterproof protection, fill all the expansion gaps with compressible PE 3/8 inch foam backer rod and cover it with 100% silicone sealant. Coat the perimeter, including any door frames or other fixed objects, making sure the silicone connects from the edge of the floor to the wall. But only a light coating is needed, so wipe away any excess. Then install any baseboards, transitions, and shoe moldings to the walls. Make sure not to drive any nails into your new floor. Now you have a gorgeous, affordable, waterproof floor that replicates the look and feel of real hardwood. And you did it yourself.